Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Thursday, September 19th, 2024. Of course, with Originator Success here with your daily mortgage rate update, the only place on the web where you guys get to join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, talk about what's going on with rates and pricing and rate sheets and all that good stuff. There we go. Get a little bit of that glare out of there. Broadcasting to you on Facebook and on YouTube. If you're here live, say good morning as all of you are rolling in. I appreciate you. If you're watching on the replay, don't forget to put hashtag replay in the comments, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube. Go ahead and click that thumbs up and all that good stuff. Don't forget to smash that like button, tag an LO friend, share us in a group. Also, if you would like to just receive the email, Lock Advice to your inbox each and every weekday morning, it's absolutely free of charge. Use it any way you want. www.ratelockadvice.com. Go ahead and sign up for our text alerts at www.ratetextalerts.com. Sign up for our text reminders at hmmr.io/reminder. Last but not least, check us out at originatorssuccess.com. Find out how we help you get loans from Google and social media. So I'm going to say hi to everybody, but Sean Segaloff has this in there. My realtor said my interest rate should be a 0.5 point less today. You know, let's talk more about that. In fact, let's go a little bit deeper on that. I am going to pop this in the chat, and I will pop it in there a few different times. But I am doing a webinar today at 1 o'clock Eastern. All right. So if you want to sign up for that webinar, go to hmmr.io/sales-script-webinar. And you know, we're gonna go deeper on that. I think we're gonna unpack a lot of stuff today. So one of the things though is what Sean hit on here. So I'm gonna come back to that. In the meantime, let's say hi to everybody this morning who's joining us, and we'll hit on what Mason said too. Mason said so much bad info going around. The bad info going around is so bad, Mason. But it doesn't matter, right? Like, here's the thing. We get so caught up on that, and it doesn't matter. So we're going to unpack that today. I don't want to get too far off topic. I'll do that a little bit more, you know, that's down there. And we'll go deeper on this, but sign up for that webinar. And on that webinar, I'm going to definitely talk more about this and go on about this. So in the meantime, let's get back on track. We're going to unpack what the Fed did and what the Fed said and all that stuff. So let's go ahead and say hi to all the live folks here this morning, all of my friends, and we'll go through there. Because I got to tell you, there's originators that I kind of laugh at too right now. When I'm gonna pick on them on here as well. So good morning, first of all, to Mr. Mike Tebow, first one I see on here saying hello. Good morning, Mr. Mike. Great to have you here, my friend, and always appreciate you joining me. Glad to see you here. Let's see who else we got here this morning. After Mike Tebow, we got Tim Kleila, another Michigan native. We got Mallory Fotiades, Bobby Searson, Deb Dickinson, Sean Segaloff, good morning. Kenny Rivard, Mark Clark, Nicole Simarad, good morning. Angela Walters, Michael Love, thank you for joining me. Mason Kurth, great to see you here. Mark Preston, great to have you here. Brandy Brickler. Brandy, when you getting that new iPhone? Steve Rand, good morning. Karen Elridge, hello. Lisa Ramirez. Lisa said no sound. Lisa, if you have no sound, that's on your end. Everyone else is hearing me. So that one is likely on your end. You might want to see about that. Sean, I got you there. Whitney Fortna, Lisa Norman, good morning. Amy Blauser, Mr. Ron Siegel. Ron Siegel said, it's National Talk Like a Pirate Day. Wouldn't it be funny if Powell did that in his press conference? Tina Brumond, good morning. Ron, what are you talking about with a cut? What cut? Mortgage rates got cut, right? Yes, Nicole said, is that Eastern time? Yes, that is Eastern time because I am East Coast time and everything revolves around the East Coast. So if you all want to join that webinar, down at the bottom is a thing. I'll throw the link in a couple of times today. I'm doing a sales script webinar. It's open to everybody. It's sponsored by 2020 Vision for Success Coaching, and it'll be for their members, but I got permission from Christine Beckwith and Jason Frazier to go ahead and share that with my crowd. So definitely hop on, and we're going to go deeper talking about this. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about as far as what happened yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and block that out. Let's do the side by side, and we'll kind of, come on. All right, go to the side by side. Oh, this thing is running slow today, getting goofy. So bear with me a minute. There we are. And I'm going to throw this back up on the screen. Okay, so taking a look at where things are at, mortgage-backed securities currently up 3 basis points. There's a lot of volatility this morning, which is very much expected. And that's what we got yesterday. So couple of things. Number one, like I saw somebody in Brokers Are Better, the Facebook group, talking about how they were pricing up an FHA high balance loan, and it was a 0.5 point higher in interest rate. That is utterly ridiculous. Okay. That is lender gouging. There is no reason yesterday to have seen rates. So we talked about LOs that were locking before the meeting. And like I said, the only thing I would have considered locking is anything closing in the next couple of weeks. And I stand by that statement. I stand by that decision, right? Taking a look this morning, mortgage-backed securities are up a couple of basis points. You can see, look at, we still have very choppy trading. Here was yesterday afternoon after the Fed meeting. And we were down a little bit before the Fed meeting. And then during the Fed meeting, we went up. After the Fed meeting, we kind of crept down. This is profit taking. That's why this morning we were up and then it's down. And traders are all over the board right now on this stuff because they don't quite know what to expect. And when it came to the Fed meeting, so let's recap what happened at the Fed yesterday and kind of where things are at. And then we'll go a little bit deeper. So, the first things first, big Fed rate cut. Forces the Fed to contend with new obstacles. So what did the Fed do? I'm sure everybody's already aware, right? The Fed did did cut by a 0.5 point. Let's recognize Mr. Ron Siegel because he called it a while back. And Ron, you ended up being correct. You nailed it. The Fed did go ahead and go big, and they went and started with a bang to basically, cut a 0.5 point on the first meeting. Now, let's talk about mortgage rates and the reaction to that. So, and then we'll unpack the dot plot and then the press conference. So first things first, the reaction to the 0.5 point rate cut. Arguably, anytime the Fed cuts rates, it is going to spur the economy, which is inflationary. And the thinking is mortgage rates always go negative when the Fed cuts. And that's what we saw happen today, except for, no, it's really not. When you look at what happened at 2 p.m. when the Fed cut rates, we saw mortgage-backed securities go up. They improved on the day right here. So why did that happen? Oh, no, mortgage rates went down. No, that didn't happen until later, okay? The immediate reaction was positive to mortgage-backed securities because inflation is not really the problem or concern right now. The idea is that the Fed funds rate is still much higher than neutral, and inflation will continue to go down. That's why you can't just have these cliches about what's going on. Now, people that locked loans yesterday, some of them are like, see, I was right. Great, you were right for 5 minutes. And I even said multiple times, and I can go back to my written lock advice. Even if we get a negative reaction, it's going to be knee-jerk and short-lived. The reason we've got what we would perceive at all to be a negative reaction is because there were a lot of traders that are cashing in and taking profit off the table after we saw things improve. Now, you look at the 10-year Treasury yield, it's a little higher than what I'd like to see right now. It's back above 3.71. I don't love that. We're at 3.75. We could argue that we're up against this blue line here, which is the 25-day moving average. That's at 3.77. There's also some other technicals levels that we don't see here based on past performance that are going to also form a cap there. I'm not worried about the 10-year really going past this point. Say the 3 points mark, right? Not necessarily 25-day moving average, but when you look at where we dropped down to on this one dropped to 3.77, this one dropped to 3.76. This one here ended at 3.79, but dropped down to 3.7, opened at 3.70, right? This one here was at 3.71. That's where you've got that line in the sand. We're at the high point of the 10-year treasury. It's not going to go much higher than this. All of the trading that we're seeing now has to happen for everything to set up for mortgage rates to take that next step down. Now, here's the thing that many originators and people posting and everything else were missing the point on. What they were missing the point is that this is not a one and done cut. The question now is, what is the Fed going to do next? And that's what Tim Ross deals with in this article. Big rate cut forces Fed to contend with new obstacles. Now, one of the things that let me see something, Ron. I want to see. I have to see where is. Bear with me a minute. I got to move this little thing at the bottom. I got to find where they have that link, Ron, and I'll get so I can invite you when I feel like inviting you to this. But one of the things that Ron just pointed out, and thank you, Ron, for typing all that in there. Glenn Youngkin, governor of Very Blue, Virginia, worked for 25 years at private equity firm Carlyle Group, shared yesterday the Fed has only started a rate cut cycle with 50 bips 3 times in 25 years. We had COVID, the great financial crisis, and 9/11. So, which is an interesting thing. I think what happened is they recognized that they could have done this in July. They hit it hard to make a statement in September. We had known, based on the Fed whispering here with Nick Timiraos, that it was coming and that it was definitely a possibility. And like I said, even if we got it, we weren't going to see bonds with a negative reaction. A lot of people were like, oh, look at this, it's terrible. Bonds ended the day yesterday. They started the day at 101.40-ish, and they ended the day at 101.40-ish. Right. So there was really not a lot of movement because, that was caused for that. If we look at the 5-day, the day before, yeah, they were up 101.55. So we're down about 14, 15 basis points from the height. And that's at this particular moment. Again, we're seeing a lot of volatility still. We're down 1 basis point. If we were up 6 like we were 5 minutes ago, we would be down 10 basis points. I mean, we haven't really seen any movement. So when you look at rate sheets, we see rate sheets, even Mortgage News Daily, when we look at their pricing scenario, right? They're showing that yesterday at 6.15, which is an increase from 6.11, which is a decrease from 6.12, which was a slight decrease from 6.14. We're no different. Rates have not jumped up to 6.5 or 7. I mean, we didn't see any big. So people that are like, oh, their rates went up. I'm like, they didn't. They went up for 5 minutes. Relax yourself. They'll go back down again. And I told you that this is likely what's going to happen. That's why anything that's got time, we're certainly not worried. This move, by the way, I don't think it was politically motivated at all. Let me know in the comments. Do you think that the Fed's decision was at all motivated by politics? I would like to know if people believe that. You're entitled to your opinion, even if it's wrong. I'm just kidding, but only a little. No, it wasn't motivated by politics. A rate cut, even a 0.5 point rate cut, was not done because they want to see the Democrats in the White House. It was done because they want to stick the soft landing. I saw that written somewhere. It's the best way that I could say it. They wanted to stick the soft landing, and they want to get that first cut and then dial it in. Now, the Fed projections and the dot plot, let's take a look and see kind of what that changed and where we were at. So previously, we were at this expectation. Oh, is this still the same dot plot? Let's see, September 2024 dot plot. Let's see what the dot plot is. Image. We'll get a picture one. I think there's one there. So let's see if this will come up for us, right? So here's the dot plot. The June versus here you go, Bloomberg. Let's visit this. This will be good. Okay. All right. So looking at the dot plot, what we got going on here, right? The Fed September dot plot. The idea of 2024. I'm actually going to make this full screen for you guys so we can kind of see this together and go over it together. Nope, not that one. This one. By the way, down at the bottom is a link. I'll post it here in the comments for you one more time. If you want to sign up and register, it's absolutely free. There's no sales pitch. I'm not selling a product. This is if you want to see about sales scripts and going over how do we have this conversation with people about where rates are at and why now is a good time to refinance and stuff. So taking a look here, I mean, you can see the majority is now at 4.75, right? A little bit above 4.5. So there's still some that think that the projections that we're going to stay where we're at through the end of the year, and that's absolutely silly. When you look at where they're going for next year, they want to give themselves room, and I think they're really trying to spur the market to kind of just come to terms with where they think things will go. So the expectation now for a November cut. We're now at 4.75. Markets are pricing in a majority for another quarter point cut, a small 35% for a half point cut. Ron said it always takes 6 to 12 months for Fed actions to affect the market. Yesterday's action only affects emotions. I agree, man. And that's why it's not the only politics in this was that Powell does not want to leave his position with a recession. No, he wants to nail it. I mean, if you do your job, why would you not want to nail it, right? If you're the Fed, chair, why would you not want to, during one of the most crazy times out there, why would you not want to nail your session where you hit it with a soft landing coming out of this whole pandemic? Again, everyone likes to rank on the Fed. I think the Fed's done a great job up till now, and I think they continue to do it. I think the half-point decision, again, give Ron Siegel credit. The man saw it coming. I thought we were going to see a quarter point. I thought they'd be a little more conservative, as we were going in until we got that Nick Timiraos article. And that sounded like the Fed whispering, right? So anyway, as we go here, where are rates going? They're moving lower, y'all. They're moving lower. My advice remains the same as it has been. You absolutely want to be floating loans. Unless it's closing in the next week, right? But otherwise, why would you want to lock? People that talked about, rates got worse. How much worse did they get? When we look at it here, how much worse did they really get? Give me a break. All right. If you were seeing, how many people even got reprices worse yesterday? I saw like 3, and it was the ones that repriced it like the drop of a hat, like UWM these days. So really, it was not anywhere near where people are like, I told you, see, this is why we locked everybody. Give it time. Give it time to settle in. Markets will now prepare for what do they think the next thing that's going to happen. We're expecting further rate cuts down to 4.5 by November. December market, remember, we were at 5.25. The idea is we're going to be at 4. That's another half point cut. We've got 2 more labor market BLS reports coming out between now and then. We're going to see more inflation data. I think we're going to see, rates continue to slowly move down. And as I had said in my lock advice, we weren't going to see any big moves lower. We're looking for that slow, steady, gradual rate decline. And that's what we're getting. Today, yesterday's rate bump up was reaction to the markets, and it put us where we were last week. It wasn't, like we were right there. It's not any big difference. It's not any like, oh my goodness, rates jumped up to 6.75. And again, when I saw someone on Facebook that said they got a half a point rate cut, a rate hike, that's ridiculous. If you have lender pricing that jumped a half a point in rate, not in pricing, in rate, there's a huge problem there, and definitely don't lock it because it'll clean itself up in a day or two. I don't know. This just shows like what time they close and what time, MBS Highway is showing up 8 basis points on the morning. For consistent, that kind of is better for me. For consistency, I'll stay with Mortgage News Daily. That shows -3 on the day. But again, it's not that. It depends on where we were yesterday, 101.41, and now we're at 101.39, and that's why. And it depends on what time you want to say was a close yesterday, but there's still 101.41. You notice it's still the exact same thing, but whether one is up 8, one is down 3, depends on what time they closed yesterday. What you're using as your reference point for whether we're up or down on the day. But the bottom line is really not that different. 101.40 is very much where we were like yesterday, which was a little bit worse. And it's only down about 15 basis points from where we were a day or two ago. So keep that up. We talked about the dot plot. We talked about the Fed actual statement. So Powell's press conference, and I'm going to wrap it up because we're at 20 minutes, but his press conference, it didn't wow anybody. And that's why we saw this. Let me bop this down and bring this up, and we'll go over this. That's why we saw, I'll move this to 2-day, this kind of negative reaction here during the press conference. Nobody was really loving what they heard from Powell. He wouldn't commit to future rate cuts. He wouldn't everything was still the data dependent. And he was basically saying that the Fed was going to take it meeting by meeting. And he wasn't really, they kind of claimed victory over inflation, right? That is something to pay attention to. They really, the wording was very unique and very different than we've seen in the past, where they said, hey, we think inflation is firmly on the path to 2%. So that gives them room to go ahead and start cutting rates in the future, because they basically admitted that they're not worried that they're going to spike inflation. So kind of all of this and where we go with it, there's definitely questions about what can they do next. Will they cut in November? How much will they cut? And we're going to see markets go back and forth on this. The fact that we have only pricing in a single quarter point cut right now is actually to our favor. And we've got room to see things continue to improve and take away here. So definitely, I see rates continuing to improve over the next couple of weeks. I'm not worried about the fact that we are just minorly off of the last couple of days. Some of the things on Facebook really made me laugh. Mike said, with what is happening with a 0.5 point cut, which I also called. Yes, Tebow, I give it to Tebow. He called it as well. Can you imagine what the result would have been if it was only a 0.25 point? Do you think it would have been better or worse, Mike? What do you think for mortgage bonds? Now, one thing to note too is stocks are selling off again. There's a lot of movement. Here we are for the moment in the green, up a basis point, which isn't even really anything. Again, this is all just, it shows us there was no severe reaction one way or the other. I would have loved to have seen a bit of a rally, but unfortunately, we didn't get that, but we also didn't get any kind of sell-off. So there was really nothing for people to get all panicky about and, all that stuff. It really does kind of make me laugh. So, all right, my friends. Well, anyway, the advice is there. The sales script thing is there. If you want to join me, I'll post it one last time in the chat. I think that shows up on the different thing. Tina, I don't know. I'm posting it here. I'll post it on Facebook in a little while. I'll go through and reply to a couple people and throw that script in there so you have it. So you don't have to type it in. But if you type it in, it's hmmr.io/sales-script-webinar. And that'll let you register. Those will be open, and there's a whole series of them. And again, there's no sales, no heavy sales pitch. We'll talk about 2020 for a minute. I'll talk about originator success for a minute, but it's not a sales webinar. We're going to really go deep. And I want to do role play, and I want to talk about having this conversation about, about rates. Why now is a time to refinance? So I'm going to send this out, this article out with it. Does the big Fed cut make refinancing worth it? This is what's in the Wall Street Journal. This is what you're competing against right now. People are reading these things. You need to know kind of what's going on here, and we're going to have that conversation. Now, I also want to remind everybody, you should not be doing things that are going to negatively impact a consumer. But at the same point, we're not all knowing. I'll go deeper into it in the sales webinar, but you need to be out there. Also, there's a lot more than, does somebody have equity? Are they able to get a better interest rate now? What does that actually look like? What if they have credit card debt? What if they have car loans at 9%, for 7 years right now? Look at this stuff. Look at those calculations. There's a lot of reasons. So we're going to go deeper and talk about the scripts and go on this, because this is the conversation. And the things that you guys were talking about earlier on, I'm going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about when you have consumers that are saying to you, hey, rates went down, or my realtor said rates went down, or things like that. My realtor said he expects rates to be in the low 5s today. How do you have that conversation? We're going to talk about that on the webinar. And all that stuff. So the webinar is at 1 p.m. Eastern time today, 1 p.m. Eastern time today. And I'm doing that for 2020. So, all right, my friends, I'm going to wrap it up because I've gone way, way, way long. You guys have a fantastic